Welcome to Gaia's Love, a podcast of brief messages to help humanity bridge the gap to the new earth. My name is Vivienne Gerard. It is my delight to be a scribe for consciousness today, sharing the wisdom that flows through from Source. Here we go. Episode 197. We're almost at 200. Isn't that exciting? I keep thinking about that. I'm like, what are we going to talk about on 200? And then what are we going to talk about on 201? There's just always going to be something more to talk about. So I just keep showing up to see what we're going to talk about. But it's fun to reach these milestone numbers. I was looking at it this morning. So 197 today, 98, 99. We're going to reach 200 by Friday, which is right before Memorial Day weekend, long holiday break. It's so perfect how this podcast is just aligning with the timing for me. So thank you to all the energies that are co-creating this beautiful space with me. It is Tuesday here in Cincinnati, and the skies are sort of clear. They were a little cloudy before. We dropped in temperature significantly. It's pretty chilly. I think it was 50 degrees this morning when I went for my run. It was cold. So tomorrow 85. Cincinnati weather. But it is still gorgeous outside. I'm hoping I can keep up with all the flower photographs that I've been taking, because every time I go into a new area, there's something beautiful just waiting to say hello to me. Okay, so let's see. How do we want to meander through today's topic? When I tuned into the vibration on Friday of rebirth, there's this process I shared of letting go of the old sleepiness, the old dull awareness, and actually stepping into more awareness, and then eventually becoming childlike with this innocent beauty and enjoyment of life. And then yesterday, what did we talk about yesterday? My mind just went blank. What did we talk? Oh, celebrations. We talked about celebrations yesterday. We talked about celebrations because I was talking about the graduations. So what happens when we are in cycles of rebirth or endings and beginnings, which happens every day, all the time? People talk about, how that happens in our physical bodies with our cells, and it happens in our emotions, and it happens constantly. We're just moving through many deaths and rebirths and finding our way through that. And so the feeling I had yesterday of celebration, it's so genuine. We have these moments that are almost ecstatically happy to us, where we are just in love with life, in absolute bliss with the gift and the beauty of breathing here on this planet. And then the journey of being human is we can follow that experience of being so happy, so full of joy. In a few moments, hours, a day or two later, we can cycle right into a mini death or a mini releasing and feel the complete contrast of those emotions. And then there's another joyous celebration. And so we are constantly moving through the range of emotions and experiences available to us here on Earth. What I hear often and what I feel myself often is the speed at which we can move from one range to another and from one contrast to another, and how sometimes that can be so dizzying or exhausting or confusing. Like, how could I be so happy and then be so sad? Or how could I feel so interconnected and part of everything, and then feel so isolated and separate from everyone. These cycles that we move through can really can make us feel a little crazy. And I had an experience like that yesterday, when we're around lots of people and, families gather, emotions move very quickly and memories and things move, and you find yourself suddenly feeling grief or feeling anger or feeling disappointment. And what I have learned in my journey through much trial and tribulation, what I have learned is that trying to push down those emotions or skip over them or ignore them, it doesn't work, because eventually those emotions get bigger and bigger, and then they erupt and they become very disruptive in our relationships or toxic to our bodies. When we ignore the many releasings and many deaths that are happening inside of our human journey, we ignore, they build and they become more intense, because they want movement. Those emotions and feelings want expression. It's why we have them. It's to feel them, to express them, to move through them, to flow with them. And so when we stuff them down, we create disease, we create disharmony within ourselves. And yet when the emotions start to come up, there's this feeling inside of us sometimes like, oh no, I'm sliding down the rabbit hole. Why am I doing this? What's happening? Why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? And so there's a line to walk of, feeling the emotions without drowning in them, looking at what is coming up for us to explore without buying into that as our permanent way of how life is going to be now. We sometimes can be so absolute. Like, well, now I'm feeling sad, I'm forever going to be sad. Or now I'm really angry, I'm forever going to be angry. Or we just come up with all of these absolutes of how life is going to be experienced. And when we can remember, even in those moments where it feels confusing or isolating, if we can remember it's just emotions and experiences moving, and we allow the movement, it will always pass and something new will flow in. And so we ebb and we flow just like the ocean. We're just feeling the movements of energy going through our human journey, our human experience. There's a great card I was going to read, and I'll read it another time, but it's in my Zen deck, and it's called the Change card, and it describes how we can hang on to the edge of change as it's happening, and it'll spin us around the outside like in a washing machine. We'll just spin around and around and around. If we can make our way towards a really centered space inside of us that says, I know change is always going to be happening. I know there are always going to be emotions that will want to move through me and be felt. And because I know that that's always going to be happening, I can just rest in the centered space of feeling whatever it is and letting it move. Flowing through whatever that emotion is and allowing the next one to come in without getting lost or carried away by the emotions. So all of this, it sounds great, right? It sounds great in theory, and then when you're in that moment and you suddenly, like for me yesterday, I go from this feeling of the world is just magical celebration, yay, like literally so happy, and then by the end of the night, like down in some story that I've been telling myself that isn't my truth, and feeling the grief and the emotions that needed to be felt. That was not very long, an afternoon to an evening, and we can judge ourselves. This is what I find for myself. I can judge myself, like, what is wrong with you? Why can't you stay in the happy place? Why can't you be more even keeled? Why do you have to go through these ranges? We punish ourselves for being humans and moving through the human experience with as much grace as we have the capacity for in the moment. Even then we judge ourselves. Like, you could have done it better. You should have done this. You should have... which amplifies how bad we feel. So my hope, my intention for sharing that in this space is that we all just acknowledge we go through these cycles and it's okay. It's totally okay. And we're allowed to have the feelings that we feel, and we're allowed to express them as long as we're not projecting and being aggressive in our projections, as long as we're responsible for our emotions and we own what we're feeling. We're allowed to feel those feelings, and in that range of emotions, we strengthen, we become clearer, we release things that are not our truth. We find our center, and in those ranges, what I have found for myself is the more I am able to be present in whatever the experience is that I'm having right now. So like in this moment, right now, being present with, I still feel a little heavy, I still feel a little sad, and I'm gonna be okay, and I know I'm gonna be okay. And also like in this moment, it's just a little tender, you know? And yes, yesterday it was awesome celebration, and I'm both of those. And tomorrow, I don't know what the feeling will be, but I'm going to be present with it. I'm going to be in my journey, experiencing my journey, and it's all perfect. And so maybe this visibility or sharing of that allows all of us to have a little more compassion, a little more kindness for where we are, ourselves first, right? Perhaps a little more compassion for ourselves first, and then some compassion for the people around us who also are having their human journeys and making their way through the experiences they've called in, and feeling the range of what they need to feel for their growth. When we can feel that compassion for ourselves, when, like for me, when I'm sad, I want to just lay down and close my eyes and listen to music, and that's what helps me heal. It's where I find my steadiness, my center again. And so that's what I claimed for myself. Instead of trying to do something different, I did what served me. I was compassionate for myself. And in that space, we heal because we're giving ourselves what we need. And then when we can see how it serves us when we're compassionate to ourselves, it's a little easier to be compassionate to the people around us. So when we see a little toddler, for example, having a temper tantrum, instead of shaming the child or shaming the mother or, trying to stop the process, perhaps we just allow that little one that movement of energy, have the temper tantrum, move it out. And you're safe. We're right here with you. You're not going to get hurt. Feel the feeling. Move it out. Okay. Feel better? Feel better? Great. Now let's give you a hug and we'll remind you how much love you are. If we could all practice that compassion with our own inner ones that want to have temper tantrums, and the mothers and fathers that are trying to move us all along in this human experience, we could all be a little kinder. So, Purification, that was the title for today as I meander through this topic. What I believe to be true is that there is an ever-increasing amount of light that is pouring into our planet, and we're co-creating that as a humanity because we're destroying the ozone layer. And I laugh as I say that, but the ozone layer becoming thinner allows more light in, so I don't know, is it a bad co-creation? Is it what we all chose? I believe as that light comes in, it changes the cells of our body. We become more light-filled, and when we are receiving that light, when we're open to feeling whatever it is that is moving through us, and our vibrations get higher and more light-filled, those places where we still have shadow or contrast or wounding or heaviness, those places that are not in alignment with all of that light, they start to bubble up or want to be illuminated, want to move. And what I shared on Sunday's meditation was my perspective on the full moon in Scorpio and how much more light is available to us right now on our planet. It's a beautiful meditation that you can still access if you want support right now at this time. What I believe is when all that light comes into our bodies, which is what happened Sunday, Monday, it's why that podcast yesterday was so full of joy. All of this light floods into our bodies. Well, when all of that light comes in, the places where we are not that light or where we are not yet filled with that light, those little shadowy, hidey spots inside of us, they get called forward, they get illuminated. And that's what happened yesterday. The places where I still have fear or doubt or distrust, those places pop up to be looked at. And we can recognize that, be aware of that, and then just gently allow ourselves to look at those feelings and emotions, to experience them, to move them, to give them space to be illuminated, instead of shutting it down and trying to hide it away. The more we flow with this process of light coming in, moving, creating, bubbling, things that are not in alignment with that, coming up to the surface, looking at them, releasing them, healing them, taking a breath. More light coming into the planet, coming into our bodies, moving up through us, bringing those things that need to be illuminated to the surface. Feeling the emotions, looking at the experiences, the stories, changing them, releasing them. Breathing. This is the process I call purification. It's in the dictionary, purification means getting rid of contaminants, or from a spiritual sense, spiritually cleansing yourself, coming into higher alignment. We are, in the human body, we are going through a purification process as humans where we are literally releasing those places that are not light and becoming more and more light. So perhaps having a name for this, what can feel like a manic cycle, or these ups and downs, roller coasters, all these words that we use in coaching and therapy, and general conversation, like, ups and downs and craziness. And what if we just rename this whole experience and call it purification, and allow more compassion for ourselves as we are being purified? Perhaps when we look at it that way, there's more optimism that at some point, I know this to be true. I will be purified of all the places where I've been sitting in my shit. I will be purified. Eventually, this cycle of releasing will be complete. I don't know when. Maybe it's when I'm still in a physical body. Maybe it's when I transition and go back to being a soul. I don't know, but at some point, it will for sure happen. So if we know that's the direction we're headed, we can be a little kinder to ourselves along the way. Knowing that, we'll go to bed tonight and wake up tomorrow and the sun will be shining. It's a whole new day, and who knows? Who knows what today's going to bring? Who knows what tomorrow's going to bring? We show up and trust it's perfect. Okay, my biggest suggestion to anyone, anyone alive at this time on this planet, is drink more water. Drink more water, because water purifies the body, especially if you bring it in with the intention that you are love, you are kindness, you are compassion. When you swallow water with that intention, your cells in your body will shift. So drink more water. It will help. It will help the purification. All right, have a beautiful Tuesday, friends. Thank you for tuning into this vibration of pure love. I invite you to join me in aligning with the optimal health of your mind, body, spirit in the virtual community of Viv's Energy Gym. You can learn more at mysouljourney.com. Let's take this message of Gaia's love out into all of our relationships and communities today. So much love from my heart to yours.